My guest today is Grace Holland, chairperson of Down Syndrome Network Oregon. Can you talk a little bit about what you do and what your mission is?
Absolutely. Our mission is to show that every life has value, and that every life should be celebrated. And that's what we do on a daily basis. We celebrate our kids, all of our children with Down syndrome and our children without. So at the DSNO, we will start with what we do, or what we're very happy to do for new families who are expecting a child with a diagnosis. We are there when they're ready for us to be there after the birth of the child to provide resources, fabulous doctors to take our special kiddos to, speech therapists, occupational therapists. Of course, the speech therapy comes later, but from a very young age, just several months old, these little kiddos are engaged with occupational therapists that help them get up and on their feet and get rolling. Mary was doing this at just before she was 3 months old.
So this is your daughter?
My daughter Mary, who's almost 13.
Oh my goodness!
I can't even believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been involved with her therapist since, as I was saying, since she was just over 2 months old, and so we just start these get up, get moving early with these kids.
And talk about cost. I know a lot of people hear rumors about costs involved in therapy. What is the real truth about that?
Well, I think the real truth is different depending on the avenue that the family takes. As a family and their health insurance policies, what that looks like. I can speak to our situation. Our situation was that Mary was born under our insurance umbrella, and her well baby visits were covered when I would take her to the pediatrician, and continue to do so. All of her shots, that's all falls under the same umbrella as the expenses that our other children incur. But there are so many activities out there for our kids, athletic teams to join that are free.
And you talk about therapy too. You listed a whole day's worth. Talk about that when you said this was free. Then was, all
yesterday, Mary was in the swimming pool at 8 o'clock with some of her pals taking swimming lessons for free, an hour in the pool, having a ton of fun and learning to swim and learning to be comfortable with her mouth, nose, and eyes under the water, and that was free. That was an hour yesterday morning, and we went directly from there to a dance class where the Tualatin dance team came out and teaching our kids a dance. Yeah. So for 45 minutes, Mary was with other kids with these fabulous gals from Tualatin learning choreography, and quite well, I might add.
I'm a dancer, so I'm all about that.
It was, and I sort of joined in at one point to get some of the kids a little motivated to participate, and I worked up a sweat, and I learned some moves. We learned some moves, and that was free.
Oh my goodness!
And that took place in Lake Oswego. A lot of, it seems, especially our summer activities are put on by high school kids who are there for a number of reasons. One being the goodness of their hearts. Their best friend has a little brother or a little sister with Down syndrome or autism or whatever it may be.
Yes.
And the siblings show up to help out with these kids. Out. And then their best friend says, "Hey, that looks really cool. I'm going to do it." And so we have a massive amount of kids, high school kids and older, showing up to hang out with our children.
Well, I don't think people really realize the resources that are out there. Talk a little bit about the kinds of things you can tell new parents are waiting for them that you can offer just right here in the Portland metro area.
Okay. While the family is still in the hospital after giving birth, we can start at the beginning there. If they are open to it, they can expect a mom, myself, or another mom from DSNO and her kids to show up with what we call a basket of hope.
Oh.
And last year we gave out 32 baskets of hope locally. And inside the basket, you'll find hand-knitted blankets and booties and hats, and these projects are just done by moms or grandmoms locally that do that in their spare time. The basket is loaded with information and resources such as fabulous doctors that we have found through our raising our own children. Fabulous doctors.
It's important, isn't
absolutely. Mary sees our pediatrician that my other children see. She just happens to be extremely good at identifying Mary's needs and taking care of her. So, but we will offer lists of doctors and if the case calls for it, surgeons, and up at OHSU we have our Dr. Pinter, Joe Pinter, who runs the Down Syndrome Clinic.
Which I had not heard of, so this is amazing.
He's fabulous.
Best kept secret.
Best kept secret in the world. I lived here 8 years.
We're going to have to get him on the show, right?
Yeah, okay. I've got him in my phone. We'll call him and have him here. Dr. Pinter grew up with a brother with a disability, a serious disability, and made this his life's work to look after these kids. And he's a wonderful man, highly educated, and takes care of our kids. So that's a fabulous place to start. That's at Dornbecker at OHSU. So we fill our basket full of local resources for the kids to see certain doctors, and we also try to get up-to-the-minute literature for parents, because I know when Mary was born and I realized her diagnosis after her birth, everything that I tried to find to read, to educate myself, to get to know my new daughter, was so outdated. And
a little bit negative, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Is that an understatement?
Absolutely negative. Scary, negative, and a lot of question marks. A lot of the answers that I had just as a new mom weren't being answered with what I was reading. And I didn't know one other family to my left or to my right, or far to my left or far to my right, with a child with Down syndrome. I was very alone. I felt very alone.
We hear that a lot, and that's why I think what your group is doing is so important to families.
Fundraising efforts that we do throughout the year send our dads off to Timbers games together, to golf tournaments, weekend-long golf tournaments, dads dinners, just time for dads to get together and be dads, and have a place where they can show how proud they are of their children, and also when the times are tough, when there are unknowns, where dads can support one another and say, hey, you know what, I've just been through that with my child, and this is what we did, and here's the card of this doctor, or here's the card of, this coach, and go take your kid out there, you'll be all right. And boy, my husband does, he engages in these activities and always comes home more positive.
I really like the idea that, I love the mom's coffees and the kids and the picnics and all that, but the idea that you included the dads, I think, means a lot.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. As moms, I think we all instinctively know how to take care of ourselves in any given situation. If we need to be surrounded, we gather our people and we get what we need. Dads, as it sounds like you're saying, have a little bit tougher of a time reaching out and asking for support, or even, I know my husband, he doesn't sometimes know when he needs a helping hand, a little support, because he's, like you're saying, he's the man, he's the dad, and so no, we wouldn't leave our dads out, because they're really important, and this is a family affair, these are our children, and it's not just the mom. And I keep saying over and over, in any situation with any child, it's not just the mom's child.
Right.
It's, it's a family. It's a family.
Grace, I want you to talk about Mary's fame in the newspaper. Your daughter Mary was at a track meet, and briefly describe what unique thing happened. And she ended up in the Oregonian, and we're going to kind of flash that page on there because it kind of impacted a whole community when you really didn't expect it.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about what happened that day and how much fun you had.
Actually, I wasn't there that day. I was out of town. But Mary has been competing on the field, on the track field, for several years. And she always comes in last and is not affected by it whatsoever. Every time she crosses that line, dead last, she throws her arms in the air and screams, "I did it, Mom, I won!" And she ran the race. She's a winner.
Yes.
So I've seen what happened that day that John Canzano wrote about in the Oregonian. I've seen a similar day. But apparently that day was big. That day it moved a lot of people. She brings to life, wherever she is and whatever she's doing, generally brings to life this sense of happiness, well-being, and championship attitude that is inspirational.
That's clear. So she was at the track meet that day.
She was competing.
And the kids that hit the finish line first were all high-fiving each other and yay, yay, yay.
The race was over.
Your daughter
so
is still coming along and determined to keep going.
Yeah.
And the crowd looked over and noticed.
Apparently that's exactly what happened, that people just stopped to watch her finish the race.
They cheered, and when the reporter wrote what had happened, who didn't expect to really write that story that day.
No, he was going in a
He was
whole
there for a different
direction.
story.
Yeah.
He was told so many people cried when they read it and it made their day that he had to write a second story about it. And these are available online. I think we can put a link on our website.
Absolutely.
To it. But they're just beautifully written because it's such a great reminder of what is important. And he wrote about that. What Mary did taught people to remember, why are we here on this earth?
Yeah.
To help each other.
Absolutely.
Instead of the trophy, a different kind of trophy.
The trophy, and maybe how sometimes maybe it's not the best time or the highest score or that wins a game or that lifts up a crowd.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true.
Yeah, right?
It's so true.
Because we are focused on that. We are focused on the numbers that create winners. And he happened to be in a place and a time, that John Canzano that day, in a place and time where he was reminded of that. And like you said, completely not there to find that story. He was there to watch his own daughter compete and was moved to the point of making it his headline story. And that just speaks volumes of the community that we are raising our daughter in, that we do have the ability to see these things, to stop and see these things, and not to be afraid to recognize these kiddos, not to be afraid that it's not cool or unacceptable. And that article helped make Mary feel pretty cool.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh,
what a celebrity.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to ask, being that she's going to be 13, you must have had time by now to observe others and how she has changed hearts and minds. Does any story come to mind? I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but I just wondered, were you ever aware of a way that your daughter changed somebody's heart and mind that may not have ever had feelings about children with Down syndrome, and now know what a blessing they are because of her?
Absolutely. The first situation that comes to mind is Mary is one of her older brothers. Will, it plays for Lincoln Youth Football, and has been since he was in the 3rd grade. And Mary has gone to practices and games. I don't think she misses one in all those. She hasn't missed one. The boys who are trying to get in this football mentality, this tough guy mentality, have embraced Mary in the most beautiful way. You know, she's now, Lincoln does not have cheerleaders. These boys don't have their cheerleading squad, but Mary is their cheerleader. And they appointed her that. That wasn't my idea or another mom's idea or the coach's idea. That was the boys.
I don't believe
So at the end of every game, since the 3rd grade, the boys, at the end of the game, no matter when they win or they lose, they say, Mary, because she'll be sitting up in the bleachers with me, come on down, Mary, and she goes running down, and somehow it's a surprise to her every time. She goes running down, and she leads them in what they call Cardinal Jacks. See? Hey, these Cardinal Jacks are their team cheer, and she leads them, and they lift her up and hold her. It's an amazing scene. That, and I look to my left again, and I look to my right, and the moms and dads of these young men are holding back tears, are clapping, are smiling. They're proud of their own children for stepping up, their own boys for stepping up again on their own, and
that's huge. For that age.
For that age.
It really is a big deal.
So this is a situation where Mary, I think, has taught, her presence has brought out the best in these young men, have shown these young men how to be better men.
And I think that
and it just happened naturally.
Beautiful.
And has changed the hearts of perhaps some parents.
Oh, I was going to say,
absolutely,
throughout the years, maybe at the very beginning, I don't know, when you felt negativity coming towards you, whether it be out of concern or criticism or worry, it just was negative.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that, or how would you advise someone to deal with ignorance and negativity that may come their way from friends, family, coworkers? Do you have any thoughts on the best way to deal with that?
Sure, I guess I do. In situations like that, where I am today, as Mary's mom, is I always have to remind myself first thing that if I didn't have Mary in my life, I would probably still be one of those uneducated people that is afraid of something that I'm unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
So I remind myself first thing when because my first reaction is feeling is one of anger.
Yes.
Because this is my child you're looking at like that, or treating like this is my child. And so my first reaction as a mom is very instinctual and is I get angry, and so I pull back my feelings and remind myself that, and I choose not to use the word ignorant, as that sounds sort of negative. It's just fear of the unknown, fear of what we don't know, and that warms my heart and reminds me that these people aren't trying to be mean or rude or heartless. It's just an area of life in which they are unfamiliar. And then I sort of get excited about the idea of bringing them in, because Mary brings joy, and her friends bring joy, and children are beautiful, and I love the moment when people who have this perhaps negative idea of Mary or her friends, when that moment happens where they realize, I get it. I get it. This is, look, she's a funny little girl with a fabulous sense of humor who's athletically capable and is an active member of her family and the community, and I love that moment. So when people come around, to the point of understanding and realizing and not perhaps being so afraid. So that is my, you asked for my advice. I don't know. I patience with ourselves, with the community at large, and being willing to share our children and not shelter our children from the negativity that might be out there, because it's our job, I believe, to share love and to share joy and to share and to bring our community along. our faith is a big part of where we find our peace and our comfort levels. Our lives are just as they were meant to be, and they're a gift. Our lives on a daily basis, my children, they were a gift that was given to me. If I remain firmly planted in my belief, I will be given the strength and the wisdom that I need to be the best mom I can be for my kids. I know that if I don't lose faith, all will be well. I just know it, because when worst of days happen and I feel like I cannot go forward, because
we all have those days.
We have those days, and when I just feel at the end of my rope, I remember to stop and take a minute and breathe and talk to my God and ask for the support and the courage that I need. And it comes.
It does come.
Without fail.
Yes.
If I just remember to ask,
yes,
I get what I need. Mary was born, and about a day and a half later, when we had been given the green light to go home with our baby by the doctors, we were packing up and getting ready to go home and bring our baby with us, and a nurse came in who I had seen over the time there in the hospital a few times, and she came in and without making eye contact with me, asked me if I'd be taking it home with me. And the word "it" in the question didn't hit me as hard as the idea that perhaps there was some medical reason that I was unable to take Mary home with me on a timely,
And you had already named her.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And she didn't say Mary.
Oh no, she said it. She said it. She referred to my daughter as it. And I remember, I have two sons that older than Mary, and I remember for the first time saying out loud, "That's my daughter." That I was able to say as a mom of a daughter, "That's my daughter." And I was just in that, it's just saying that itself was an emotional moment for me. But I said, "That's my daughter that you're talking about." And I asked her, I said, "Is there a medical reason why she can't be released?" And she said, "No, but many times in a situation like this, families choose to leave it here, and we make other arrangements." Now this was in a big city, in a fabulous hospital with a wonderful reputation, and the
clinically.
Oh yeah, clinically, yeah. On a medical level, I was my child. We were safe. That we'd be well taken care of. The language that the medical community chooses to use, again, I believe it's because it comes from a lack of knowledge and fear of the unknown. The language that was used in my situation should definitely change.
Yes.
I met a mom yesterday at a function, at a DSNO function, that has an 8-month-old son. And she said when she, after delivery, was in the hospital, she felt like she had been given a death sentence when the doctors came in and gave her the diagnosis, or the possible diagnosis, that her child had Down syndrome. She said the black cloud that those doctors came into her room with over their heads was frightening. And if she wasn't a woman of faith, would have fallen apart, she said, right then and there. Wouldn't have known what to do. There's no information given out right after birth saying, if this is what this is what you could get. Look at our hundreds of kids that I can think of off the top of my head that have beautiful, happy, full, rich lives. And my OBGYN that was with me when Mary was born had said, I asked her what she would have said had we known that Mary had Down syndrome. She said before birth, she started to cry when I asked her this after Mary was with us. She started to cry and started her answer with an apology. She said, "I am so sorry. I would have said, you have X amount of weeks to make a decision about an abortion."
Of course.
And then I started to cry, and I said, "And then what would you have said? Would you have said, but consider this, it's not a death sentence. It isn't always worst case scenario.
No.
Our children have, the ability to have long, happy, healthy lives if we give them the opportunity."
So I think maybe there will be a little a bit of a change in her practice because of Mary.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you bring up a really good point. Many of the diagnoses come at the 20-week ultrasound, and they're celebrating this. Isn't this great? It's not so great sometimes. If the parents act out of fear and choose abortion because they're told this is a terrible thing. And I just thought that is so many times the case. And if someone's watching right now and they know someone, or it was them, that just received that information at their ultrasound and everything is bad news and they're scared, what do you want to say to that person right now?
I want to say to take a little bit of time, please, to do a little bit of research, to realize that it's not worst case scenario, that these children are given to us as a gift from God, and I have never had more fun. I don't know. I need to go back. I got really
just choose life.
Choose life. Yeah.
Just choose life.
Just don't make a decision based on without any facts.
And our medical brothers and sisters need to hear this message, and we hope they're coming along too.
No,
I think they really want it. And so thanks to you and this organization.
Okay,
Thank you, Grace.
Great.